Good afternoon. It's time for yet another NFL Bucky's Mill Day. This is your host, the tired Mikey C. Of course, as always, it's Bucky. Say hi, Bucky. Bucky says hi. Well, we made it through the draft. It was a long 3 days. I watched most of it. I turned it off after the Lions' last pick. Like, okay, I've had enough. That was in the seventh round, and I didn't care who Mr. Irrelevant was. I checked it later, but I didn't think the Lions were going to make any more moves. So I basically turned it off and enjoyed the rest of the day. That being said, Lions made very curious draft. I guess one way to describe it. I've seen many different grades. I've seen everything from an A to a C minus, C pluses, Bs, and it's just been all over the board. So I'll give you mine at the end. But I want to go over the Lions picks, of course. But I want to tell you what I thought should have happened. Now, there was a moment I was extremely happy. It kind of went back and forth. It was very emotional. Well, emotional, a little strong, but it was, I guess, emotional. First two picks were pretty much spot on. I think I had those two right. Maybe the only two I forgot to check. I'll put it in the comments how many I actually got right. But then the Texans, I think, amazed everybody. They traded back with the Cardinals back into the first round with the third overall pick. Now I hope and pray the Lions made a strong effort, but the haul that the Cardinals got, the Lions could not have matched. They got a bunch of picks. They got a pick next year for a first rounder. So I don't fault the Cardinals for doing that. Anyway, they moved up and they picked Will Anderson Jr., the guy I really, really wanted the Lions to get. So, I mean, nobody expected that. How do you predict something like that to happen? So, another pick here and there. The pick that really shocked me was when the Eagles picked, or not the Eagles, the Seahawks picked Devon Witherspoon at 5. That floored me because that left not Charles, what the hell is his name? The dude from Georgia. I'm drawing a blank. Oops. Shoot, I can't remember. It'll come to me. Jalen Carter. And the Lions, if they talked to him a week or so ago and interviewed him, blah blah blah, and if he fell to, I thought, perfect opportunity. They're not going to pick Devon Witherspoon. I did not want him. If everything went right, it'd be a fantastic pick. I'd be ecstatic. I'd jump to the moon. And they traded down. They're like, oh man. So they were never going to pick Jalen Carter. It's pretty obvious to me. They got an extra pick, which is fine. I think I got a couple extra picks actually. And the Eagles traded up and they selected Jalen Carter. So the Lions picked. They finally got to pick. I think it was 9, if I remember right. 8 or 9. I should have wrote that down. I apologize. I should have wrote the actual, but it doesn't really matter. The Lions selected running back Jahmyr Gibbs from Bama. Now, my first thought was, is this the 80s where people drafted running backs in the first round all the time? Running back was on a huge need. Now, they subsequently traded DeAndre Swift. That was after they picked him. So I was like, and once they did, his fate was sealed. So it's kind of like, it was very hesitant. I've got my little tool here. If I can use it, it's a reach. It's like a grabber. There. That didn't work very well. But anyway, very good running back, the second best, and they had a chance to draft. I'm drawing blanks today, man. I'm getting tired. Running back from Texas, Bijan Robinson. And they didn't. They could have stayed at 6 and drafted him. And it still would have been a reach. I thought this is a reach for grabbing things. It reaches. And trying to find a good spot for it. There. And but so they were criticized, and rightly so. It was reached. They didn't have to get him that high. They could have got him. Now they said, and again, I don't believe anything anybody says this time, that somebody's going to draft him at 15. Who knows? There's no way to prove any of that stuff, so I tend not to believe it. I think they say it just to save grace. That's my opinion. So time went on. Blah blah blah. A couple other players, right before the Lions pick at 17, Patriots selected Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. I was like, oh man, they sniped me. He's like, I hate that. Now, would they have picked him? I don't know. Probably not, but we don't know. But I would have loved to have him on the team. So they still could have picked Joey Porter, which would have been a great pick. They didn't pick him either. They picked a linebacker, Jack Campbell from Iowa. Now, the cards in front of Bucky, there's Gibbs, there's Campbell, and there's the next pick coming up. Again, nobody drafts a running back and linebackers 1 and 2 anymore. It just doesn't happen. But he's a Campbell kind of guy, literally and figuratively. More of a middle linebacker. And, fits exactly what the Lions are looking for. Team captain. They tend to value that a lot, which is fine. And I think Gibbs was captain too, I believe, one of them. And so that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's character issues. They're just not going to go for him. So he's big. He's strong. Not super fast. But he's a middle linebacker. So you get what you pay for. But just a solid, and it'll help on the run a lot, which is what the Lions were looking for. So good overall pick. I'm not going to grade each individually pick. I'll do that at the end. I'll tell you who was my favorite pick. Not one of these two guys yet. In the second round, the Lions selected tight end. Again, another pick you don't usually pick that high. I'm like, oh, no, not a tight end. Well, there's a tight end that was really good. They didn't pick him either. They could have picked Michael Myers. They didn't pick him. Instead, they picked Sam Laporta, who that right there. Tight end from Iowa. They got 2 Iowa players. So that's pretty Midwestern right there. But that's okay. Around the Midwest. So he's not a great blocking back. He needs to bulk up a little bit. He can block, but he's more of a pass catching threat. Very good receiver. Not fast, but he's a tight end. You don't expect super speed from them. So I've seen highlights of all 3 of these guys. They're very good. Obviously, they wouldn't be drafted that high. But like a tight end, one of the things I was hoping they wouldn't pick was a tight end that high. Now, the problem with this is they could have got all 3 of these guys later, I believe. But again, they reached. There it is. Well, there it is. So they reached for all 3. So what can you do? Now, the next pick, I actually cheered for this one. Everyone's like, They picked safety. Again, so the first 4 picks, like, really? I think, not really super needs. I mean, they need, corner was a need. Defensive tackle was a need. And they got to them later, but we'll get to that. But great super pick. Best of the draft. Best of the Lions draft. Maybe the steal of the draft. Brian Branch, safety from Bama. So it's basically Bama and Iowa, the 2, first 4 players. I don't have Brian Branch's picture there because it's in my magazine. And I'm going to, do my annual recap page, and I'll show you that next week before I put it on the wall. All-American safety, again a captain, I believe, for Alabama, one of the captains, and just a hard-nosed player, just a very, very good player, and the only player I have in my magazine, so that's cool. that was the main reason I was happy, because I didn't have to pay any extra money for these guys, but that's okay. But a great selection. I've seen A+. I give that one an A. I guess the other one, it's hard to grade the other ones because they're reaches, so you got to take that into account. By far the best pick. another good pick. And at first I went, oh man. So most of the draft was like, shrugging my shoulders and just groaning a lot, basically. Um, the next pick, which is why, good reason not to do draft recaps right away and grades, because you need time to let it settle and sink in. Do a little more research, watch some more film, because you're too emotional at during. So you do it like right after. A lot of YouTube guys do it right away, which is fine. But it's better just to let it settle for a while and just kind of get off the high of watching the draft. Very long, like I said, I didn't watch all of it, most of it though. Anyway, the other pick in the second round went to Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee. Now he's coming off an ACL injury. He's 26. Like, oh geez, he's like 2 years younger than Goff, but probably won't play much, if any, this year. But he's insurance for down the road. He might take over, from Goff. We'll see. Goff is 28, so it'd be they're pretty close to the same age as he is now. So, and if it doesn't work out and they cut him, it's a second round pick. They've done that before. With the next pick in the third round, this was another one. It's like they traded like three picks for this guy to move up. Another reach. I never heard of him, but it's not a big deal. Brody Martin, defensive tackle from Broderick Martin, I'm sorry, from defensive tackle from Western Kentucky. Obviously a big guy. He's like 6'3", 320 something, a nose tackle. Obviously not fast. No, nose tackles are not fast. Not great production. They're going to try and put a little weight on him and work with him a little bit. So it's a project. Why trade up and give up draft picks for him? No clue. They could have waited and probably got him. With that many picks, they could have got him later. I'm not sure on that one, but, with the last pick of the draft, and I had to wait it seemed like 10 hours. It wasn't that long, but in the seventh round, they picked Antoine Green, wide receiver from North Carolina. I actually heard of him, so that's good. He's like 6'2", runs a 4.4, so that's good. He probably, be the fourth receiver probably, until Jameson gets back. So that was a decent pick. They needed a wide receiver. They could have went earlier. The other major news from that day was that they traded, like I said, DeAndre Swift to Philadelphia. Philadelphia just crushed the draft. They got Jalen Carter. They got Nolan Smith. They traded for, like I said, DeAndre Swift. They just crushed it. Other teams that did very well. If you take into the draft picks coming up, the Cardinals did well. Texans did fantastic. To trade up like that, they got two of the top, three players. I mean, they just early ones like that just destroyed the draft. So that was great. Eagles, like I said, they did very well. Other teams, nothing really comes to mind offhand. Like I said, I've seen so many different grades for different teams. Some pick the Steelers as a great draft. Of course, it's all subjective. I mean, we don't know. Lions signed a few interesting unrestricted draft free agents. So they paid $100,000 to a running back from Minnesota, who I actually heard of. More of a short yardage guy. A couple other players that were okay. They're undrafted. What do you expect? But, again, we'll see. The other thing to remember is, there's still players being cut. There's still, trading that can be done. So the Lions are not, in all their teams, they're not done yet. They got a lot of cap money left. So we'll see, what happens. I saw next year that there's like 3 or 4 teams that aren't going to resign or offer the 5th-year option to their draft pick. So, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity. I'm not going to worry about it. I've seen mock drafts already. I know I'm sick. next year, Lions are drafting like in the late 20s. So they're anticipating pretty good season. But now we gotta wait because it's like 4 months till the season starts. So now it's kind of a down period. I was having draft withdrawals, post draft depression, not depression. But you look at it and work at it for so long. Once it's like Christmas, like I said, once it happens and it's over, there's bound to be a letdown period. And that's kind of where I am now. So I'm not watching a ton of football stuff. The grades, I'll do a little bit of it just to see where everybody lands. But I think I've pretty much seen what I've needed to see so far. So otherwise, I think that's about it, Bucky. Yeah, it's 15 minutes already. All right, so as I said, next week we'll have the full sheet. That'll be our prop. So for Mike Scene, of course, start of the show, it's Bucky. Say bye, Bucky. Bucky says bye. Last week's videos didn't do all that great. Even the draft, I thought I was going to do a little better. The one I did for like alternatives to the Lions had like 5 maybe views. That's okay. I don't care. But if you want to like it, that's fine. Nobody ever does. So, it's okay if they do. They don't. It's up to them. But so stay safe. It's May now, so it should be getting warmer, hopefully. And a great draft. It was a lot of fun. And we'll see you there next year, of course, God willing. And we're gonna say goodbye now. Say bye, Bucky again. Bucky says bye again. All right, bye now.